She was only 6 years old, and she asked the question like it was simple, like it was the same as asking why the sky was blue or why bedtime came so soon. She looked up at him with those wide, trusting eyes, the same eyes her mother used to have. And she said it so quietly it almost didn't feel real. "Daddy, why did Mommy leave us?" The room went still, the air left his lungs like something had reached inside his chest and pulled it out. He opened his mouth. Nothing came, because the truth, the real, raw, ugly truth, was not something a 6-year-old should ever have to carry, but the lie wasn't ready either. He stood there, caught between two kinds of pain, the kind that destroys you quietly, and the kind that destroys the people you love. His daughter was still watching him, still waiting, still trusting him to make the world make sense. And in that single breathless moment, he made a decision that would cost him everything. If this already has your heart, stay with us. This story is only just beginning. Nobody saw what happened after the front door closed that night. Nobody saw him slide down against the kitchen wall until he was sitting on the cold floor, still in his work clothes, staring at nothing. Nobody heard the way his breathing broke apart in the silence, that specific kind of silence that only exists when a child has finally fallen asleep, and a parent is finally to fall to pieces. His name was Daniel, and he had been holding everything together for 11 months. 11 months of waking up before his daughter, so she never saw the exhaustion on his face. 11 months of making her favorite breakfast. Scrambled eggs with the cheese melted just right, even on the mornings he hadn't slept at all. 11 months of answering, "Where's Mommy?" with a smile so practiced it almost felt real. Almost. He had a system, that was the only word for it, a careful, exhausting system designed to make sure that little girl never once felt the weight of what her mother had done. He packed her lunches with the crusts cut off because she hated crusts. He learned how to braid hair from a YouTube video at 2 in the morning. Fingers clumsy and slow, practicing on a doll until he got it right. He showed up to every school event in the front row. Never late, never distracted, always smiling like a man whose life was perfectly whole. But behind that smile was a man who hadn't told a single person the full truth. Not his mother, not his best friend Marcus, not the therapist he saw exactly twice before deciding he didn't have the emotional energy to be honest with a stranger. The truth was too heavy to hand to someone else. So he kept it. He folded it up and tucked it somewhere deep and quiet inside himself, right next to all the other things he refused to feel, the anger, the grief, the humiliating, hollow ache of being left without a real explanation. She had just gone, packed a bag on a Tuesday afternoon while their daughter was at preschool. Left a note that said, "I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore." 7 words, 11 months of damage, and one little girl who still drew pictures of her mother with a crayon smile. Because in her world, Mommy was just somewhere else. Not gone. Just somewhere else. Daniel was the one keeping that world alive, even as his own quietly fell apart. If you know someone carrying this kind of weight in silence, this one's is for them. Keep watching. It gets deeper before it gets better. The lie was never supposed to be a lie. It started as protection, the softest, most carefully chosen words a broken man could find for a child who still believed the world was fundamentally good. It was a Sunday morning. 3 weeks after her mother left, his daughter, Lily, had climbed into his bed at sunrise the way she always did, small and warm and smelling like sleep, and she had asked for the first time, "Where did Mommy go, Daddy?" Daniel had stared at the ceiling for 3 long seconds, and then he said the thing that would quietly define the next 11 months of his life. "Mommy had to go on a very long trip, baby. To help people far away." Lily had blinked at him, processed it the way 6-year-olds process things, without suspicion, without condition, with total and devastating trust, like a hero? She asked, and something cracked open inside his chest. "Yeah," he said, his voice barely holding, "just like a hero." He told himself it was temporary. He told himself he would find the right words eventually. The real words. The age-appropriate, therapist-approved, honest but gentle words that existed somewhere in a parenting book he hadn't read yet. But temporary had a way of becoming permanent when you weren't paying attention. Lily started telling people. Her teacher. Her classmates. The old woman next door who always had butterscotch candies in her cardigan pocket. "My mommy is a hero on a long trip," she would say. with a pride so pure it made Daniel's stomach turn. Because she believed it completely, and every time she said it, every single time, he smiled and nodded and died a little more inside. He started building walls around the lie, small details to make it feel real. When Lily asked why Mommy never called, he said the faraway places had bad phone signal. When she wanted to draw Mommy a card, he said he would mail it. He never mailed it. He kept every single one in a shoebox on the top shelf of his closet. 17 cards, 17 little drawings of a woman who had chosen to disappear, each one addressed in purple crayon to a hero who was never coming back. And Daniel, steady, smiling, exhausted Daniel, carried every single one of those cards like a wound that never quite closed. The weight of a loving lie is still weight. And it was about to get so much heavier. Don't go anywhere. Her name was Emma, and she was not supposed to matter. She worked in the same office building as Daniel. Different floor, different department, the kind of colleague you see in the elevator and exchange polite nods with, but never really know. Except one day, she noticed something. It was a Thursday afternoon in the break room. Daniel was on the phone with Lily's school, pacing near the coffee machine, his voice calm and steady but his hand gripping the counter so tight. His knuckles had gone white. Yes, I can pick her up early. No, her mother isn't available, it's just me, it's always just me. He had said that last part quieter, like he didn't mean to say it out loud at all. Emma had been standing near the sink, pretending not to listen, but she heard it. And something in the way he said it, something small and buried and breakable, stayed with her for the rest of the week. After that, she started noticing him more, the way he left exactly at 5:30 every single day, no exceptions, no happy hours, no lingering, the way he kept a photo of his daughter on his desk but nothing else, no vacation snapshots, no wedding pictures, no one else at all, the way he smiled at people but never quite let the smile reach his eyes. She did not ask him about it. That was the thing that surprised Daniel most when they finally spoke. She didn't ask. It was a rainy Tuesday when the elevator broke down between the 4th and 5th floors, just the two of them, trapped for 20 minutes in fluorescent silence. Emma had leaned against the wall, completely unbothered, and started talking about nothing in particular: the weather, a podcast she was listening to, how she always forgot her umbrella on the days it mattered most. Daniel had laughed. Actually laughed, and he couldn't remember the last time something that simple had happened. When the elevator finally lurched back to life, she smiled at him, warm, easy, without expectation. "See you around, Daniel." And she did. She started saying good morning, offering him coffee when she made a pot, sitting across from him in the cafeteria without making it weird. She didn't push, she didn't pry. She just stayed, and slowly, dangerously, Daniel started to feel something he had not allowed himself to feel in nearly a year. Less alone. It terrified him, because, the last time he let someone in, she had destroyed everything. Sometimes the most dangerous thing is not falling apart. It's realizing you don't have to do it alone. Hit subscribe if you're already feeling this. It's about to shift. It happened on a Friday night that Daniel had not planned for. Emma had offered to drop off some files he'd left at the office. She knocked on his door at 7:15, holding a folder and a slightly apologetic smile. "Sorry. I know it's late. I just thought you might need these for Monday." Daniel had meant to take them and say thank you, and close the door. But Lily had appeared behind him, curious and fearless in her pajamas, with the little stars on them. "Who's that, Daddy?" Emma had crouched down to Lily's height without hesitation, her smile genuine and easy. "Hi. I'm Emma, I work with your dad." Lily had studied her with that serious, unblinking intensity only children can pull off. And then she said it. "Do you know my mom? She's on a really long trip helping people. She's a hero." The air shifted. Emma's smile didn't falter. But something in her eyes changed, just for a second, a flicker of confusion, of understanding, of something Daniel couldn't quite name, but felt like exposure. "Wow," Emma said gently, "that sounds really special." Lily beamed, and Daniel felt his throat close. He got Lily to bed 20 minutes later, his hands shaking slightly as he tucked the blanket around her small shoulders. When he came back downstairs, Emma was still there, standing in his kitchen, quiet, waiting. She didn't say anything at first, just looked at him with a kind of softness that made him want to run. "Daniel," she started. "Don't." His voice came out sharper than he meant. She stopped, but she didn't leave. "I'm not going to ask," she said quietly, "but if you ever want to tell me, really tell me, I'm here." And that was it. That was the moment, because no one had said that to him. Not once, not in 11 months of pretending, of smiling, of holding the world together with duct tape and willpower. He opened his mouth, and for one terrifying, uncontrollable second, the truth was right there, on the edge of his tongue, ready to spill. "She left us. She didn't want this life. She didn't want me. And I've been lying to my daughter ever since because the truth would destroy her." But he swallowed it down, shoved it back into the place where all the other unbearable things lived. "I'm fine," he said. And Emma, kind, patient, too perceptive Emma, just nodded, but they both knew. He wasn't fine. Not even close. The truth has a way of finding the cracks. Drop a comment if you've ever held something in so long it almost broke you. This story is far from over. The breaking point came 3 days later. Lily was at a birthday party. Daniel was alone in the house for the first time in weeks. And he made the mistake of going into the closet. The shoebox was still there. On the top shelf, 17 cards in purple and pink crayon. He pulled it down, sat on the edge of his bed, and opened it. "Dear Mommy, I miss you, love. Lily, dear Mommy, Daddy says you're helping people. You're so brave. Dear Mommy, when are you coming home?" That last one nearly killed him, because the answer was never. And he had known that for 11 months, his ex-wife wasn't on some heroic journey. She wasn't helping people in faraway places. She had left because she didn't want to be a mother anymore. She had said it out loud, once, in the note she didn't think he'd keep.
"I'm not built for this. I'm sorry."
4 words that had rewritten his entire life, and Daniel had spent nearly a year protecting his daughter from them. But what had it cost him? He looked at the cards, at the drawings of a woman Lily had turned into a saint, at the love his daughter still had for someone who had abandoned her without looking back. And he realized something that made his chest ache so deeply he couldn't breathe. He wasn't just lying to Lily. He was lying to himself, pretending that if he kept everything perfect, if he smiled hard enough, worked hard enough, loved hard enough, it would somehow erase the fact that he had been left. That he hadn't been enough. That no matter how good a father he was, it didn't change the fact that his daughter's mother had chosen to walk away. The truth was ugly. It was painful. It was the kind of thing that didn't fit into bedtime stories or gentle explanations. But it was real, and he couldn't keep running from it. Not if he ever wanted to truly move forward. Not if he ever wanted Lily to grow up in a world built on something other than a beautiful fragile lie. So he did the hardest thing he had ever done. He let himself feel it. All of it, the anger, the grief, the heartbreak he had been too afraid to acknowledge. He sat on that bed, surrounded by cards written to a ghost, and he finally broke. Not for her, for himself. This is the moment everything changes. If you've felt this kind of pain, you're not alone. Stay with us. The resolution is coming. 2 months later, everything looked different. Not perfect, different. Daniel sat Lily down on a Saturday morning, with sunlight coming through the kitchen window, and her favorite pancakes on the table. And he told her a new version of the truth. Not the full weight of it. She was still too young for that, but something real, something honest. "Lily baby, Mommy isn't on a trip. She decided she needed to live a different kind of life, and that wasn't your fault. It was never your fault." Lily had looked at him with those wide eyes, and he had braced himself for tears, for anger, for the world to collapse, but instead, she had asked the one question he hadn't expected. "Are you sad, Daddy?" He had nodded. "Yeah. Sometimes I am." She had climbed into his lap and wrapped her small arms around his neck. "It's okay to be sad," she whispered, like she was the parent, and he was the child. And Daniel had held her, and realized something profound. She was stronger than he had given her credit for. She didn't need a perfect story, she needed a truthful one. She needed him. Whole, honest, and present. Emma didn't fix him. That was important. She didn't swoop in and erase the pain or fill the gaps his ex-wife had left. But she stayed. She had dinner with them once a week. She taught Lily how to paint with watercolors on rainy afternoons. She sat with Daniel on his worst days and didn't ask him to be anything other than exactly where he was. Slowly. So slowly he almost didn't notice. The house started to feel lighter. Lily laughed more. The kind of laugh that came from deep in her belly. Unguarded and free. Daniel's sleeping through the night. He stopped checking his phone for messages that would never come. He started imagining a future that didn't revolve around surviving the past. And one evening, as Emma helped Lily wash paint off her hands, and Lily giggled about something silly and small, Daniel stood in the doorway and just watched. This wasn't the life he had planned, it wasn't the family he thought he'd have. But it was real, it was his. And for the first time in over a year, that was enough. Sometimes the most beautiful things grow in the space where everything fell apart. If this story touched you, let us know in the comments. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe, because every story we tell is built for hearts like yours.